Hello. Hello and welcome to the Soulful Mamas podcast. Yay! The very first episode. Pretty exciting. I am your host, Maria, and I'm super grateful and happy that you have come along to listen in and join me on this journey. So I've been thinking about what is it that for this very first episode that would be good for me to bring to you. And I thought maybe a little bit of background into who I am, but not just that, because you will learn more about me as the time goes on through snippets here and there. But I thought I would share my story of my journey into motherhood. And it really is quite unconventional, and it really is probably not what you'd expect from me. For those of you who know me as in a working capacity, if I worked with you, you probably think I always knew what I was doing and got everything sorted out. Well, my entry into motherhood, into pregnancy and birth and everything was completely back to front, if you like. So there were no rules followed, and I did not have it sorted at all. And I just want to share this with you because sometimes we feel like other people have got all their beep sorted out, and it's really not true. Yes, I do intuitive counseling. I do parent coaching, mentoring, and I love supporting parents, particularly women, particularly mums. But just because of that doesn't mean that I'm always getting it right and perfect at what I do, because I'm really not. I'm still learning and fumbling along like we all are. It's just I've had a few more years practice, perhaps, and I've learned a thing or two along the way. And everything that I learn and all the experiences I have, I love to, if they can help another person or support or, add a little pearl of wisdom here and there, I love to do that. So, yeah, grab yourself a cuppa and come and have a little smile and laugh or cry or sigh, whatever you want to do with when you hear about my journey into motherhood. So it actually started, I believe, when I think about it, in the Himalayas. So my husband and I did a big trip in India and Nepal, and we were doing a really big trek. It's called the Annapurna Circuit. It takes about 3 weeks to do, and I can't remember exactly the altitude, but really high, really, really high. And it was such an incredible trip. Just all you had was your pack and your boots and your presence, really, with this awe-inspiring, awesome mountain range. It was incredible. And the more I walked and the higher we got, and it was like this clean, pure air. And I just had this really strong, I don't know, epiphany, message from the mountain, perhaps, that I needed to be pure. I wanted to be more pure, and I know that sounds a bit strange. What it means was I've always been pretty healthy and I've been, eaten well, and I've been always, lots of exercise and all different things. But the one thing that I took fairly regularly, purely because of convenience, was the contraceptive pill. And, when you're traveling, we did so much traveling and mainly in third world countries. So it was quite an inconvenience to have your moon time, your cycle, while you're in places where you're lucky if you've even got a toilet. So I used to use the pill so I didn't need to ever have a cycle when I was traveling. Not even thinking about it, really. It was just convenience. But I did have a few. Intuitively, I knew that there was something didn't quite sit right, but I couldn't quite not do it. Anyway, so I was up the mountains and I had this realization that no more. So I stopped taking that. And when we ended up back in New Zealand, I was going to not a family planning clinic, but similar. And they were saying that when we decided to have children, I'd probably need help, like IVF, because I had that, they think I had the polycystic ovary thing. And at the time I thought, well, that's fine. That's not on our radar yet. I kind of just assumed that one day I would get this strong maternal drive instinct and it would kick in and I would want children. And I love children. I've been around children my whole life, but when I think I was actually 12, I pretended I was 13 and I started babysitting as a little job. And I love children. So I've always looked after them and then I went on to be a teacher. So I think people just assume, oh, you're great with kids. Of course you'll have children one day. And part of me was like, yeah, I guess I will one day, but I wasn't feeling it. Anyway, so when they said this news, you'll probably need some help, I didn't think too much about it. I thought it didn't make me sad or I didn't have too many emotions about it, to be honest. So I thought, okay, well, right now we're still busy living life and still wanting to travel more and do lots of different hikes and treks. So I was fine with that. Anyway, one day I went for a standard checkup appointment and the lady said, oh, you need to do a pregnancy test. And I thought, oh, well, I'm not pregnant. And also, by the way, I was hardly getting my period at all, very rarely. So that's why they thought I would need help later on with conceiving. Anyway, she said, oh, it's just standard. And I said, fine, radio. Did that. And the lady comes back and English was her second language. So a little bit disjointed English. And she said to me, you are pregnant. And I said, oh, no, I'm not pregnant. I just had to do the test as a, formality. And she said, oh, no, you are pregnant. And I thought, what? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Made her do another one. And sure enough, there's these 2 lines. And I just thought, what? Because you just can't comprehend it when you're not planning, you're not prepared, not in that headspace at all. And everything's flashing through my mind. If this is true, then, well, I haven't been following the rules. I've been eating the soft cheese. I've had a glass of wine here and there. All of that. And I thought, well, I can't be that far along if this is true. And she said, go and have a scan and then we can work out the date. And it's probably, really early in the piece. So I said to my husband, and he was in as much shock as I was, but it just so happened that when the scan was booked, he was going to be away visiting his family because it was also his mother's birthday, and it was her first birthday since she had passed away. So it was important that he was back home with his dad and siblings. And I said, "Oh, you go, it'll be fine. This is just to get a date of when, if this is actually really true, and a due date." So he went, and I went to the appointment, and I couldn't see anything on the screen. I thought, you look at the screen and you can see like a baby or an outline or something. Couldn't see anything. And then I'm watching it, and then suddenly, right on the front of the screen, these two big eyes were looking at me. Honestly, they looked like alien eyes. And I thought, what the hell is that? And the woman, she wasn't saying much. And then she said, "How far along do you think you are?" And I said, "Oh, no idea. Like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, I'm not sure." She said, "Darling, you're not 6, 8, 10, 12. Listen, you are 18 weeks pregnant." And I just thought, what? I nearly rolled off the bed, because everything races through your mind of how, air quotes, it should be when for that first trimester, how it should be going into pregnancy. It was not how I envisaged anything. And everything was racing through my mind. We had a big 160-kilometre bike ride that we were training for in Taupo. I was about to do that, and we were doing a South Island trip, doing all the Milford track and different tracks down there. And she said, "No, you're not doing any of those things. You'll be that's when your baby's due, that early January." And I thought, oh my God. So I go home by myself with this information, and I just don't know what to do with it, because I thought, how could I not know that I've got a little being, a little person growing inside me, and has been for 18 weeks, and I didn't know. And so all of the emotions, so guilty, so terrible, I'm going to be a terrible mother, or everything. And then this poor little thing, I hadn't taken any of the supplements you meant to take. And like I said, glass of wine here and there. And I just, I ate the cheese. I ate the soft cheese. I probably ate the sushi as well. And it was, oh my gosh, I can feel it right now as I'm speaking it. Really, really hard to reconcile. And I wasn't showing at all. I had no tummy, and any symptoms I think that I did have, I just kind of made excuses for them, like, oh, a bit tired because I'd been training so much for this bike ride I was about to do. And yeah, and I had taken pregnancy tests, probably about 3. And that time I had taken 3, and they'd all come back negative. So this is how elusive this little child of mine was. Really bizarre. But against all odds, he really, really wanted to be here. And there's no turning back. I can't change it. And I remember I couldn't find a midwife because I was due, around that Christmas, New Year period, and everyone's either booked up or away. And my beautiful midwife, Claire, she took pity on me and took me in. And she said, "Right, well, you better go and do some antenatal classes. You better book in, because they'll be booked out too." So I booked in, and I was the smallest tummy-wise in the group. And I thought, oh yeah, I must be due last. And so she made us get an order of first due to last. And oh my gosh, I was the first due. And they're all looking at me, these other mums who have fully popped out, and they're definitely pregnant looking. And they're looking at me like, what? What are you doing here? Well, that's how I felt. I felt like they're all looking at me and judging me, and I just wanted the ground to open up and swallow me. And at that moment, I thought, you know what? I can't do it. I'm out. I'm out. Until I realized you're not out. There's no getting out of this. So the, I just had to really have some big conversations with myself to like get my head around it. So, and you know, I did, and slowly but surely, um, I accepted it, and we just changed everything. But obviously, when you're not planning for it, we didn't really have much money at all, and I was just busy trying to borrow things or get things cheap off Trade Me and whatnot. And I was the only. It was just me working at that point. My husband, it was during that last recession, so he still didn't have work. So there's a bit of pressure for him to get a job before I wasn't going to have a job, and yeah, there's a lot of. It kind of was a stressful time, but I was mindful of not being stressed for the sake of the baby. But you can't help it sometimes, you know what I mean? So, anyway, we muddled through, and I continued to bike to work every day until about 8 months, I think. Um, he was just this little package, and then he really popped out in probably the last month. Anyway, it was about. I finished work on I think it's about the 22nd of December, something like that. And we drove straight from where we were living in Hamilton down to Foxton, which is a good 5-hour drive away. And the reason we were going down there is because my husband's mother, she had passed away on Christmas Day the year before. So it was important that we were there, even though my due date was the 10th of January and it was cutting it a little bit fine, perhaps. But we thought, no, it'll be fine. And the midwife said, well, you should be okay. First babies are often later than earlier, but you never know. So we go down there. I was pretty tired because I'd worked right up until that point, obviously. And then we were there, must have been 4 days. And after Boxing Day, 26th of December, I was very tired. And then the 27th, I was extra tired. And then that night, I just thought, oh, these Braxton Hicks are getting quite regular. And I went to the bathroom and I was there for a few hours and I thought, I actually think I'm in labour, but I don't really know. Because, you don't know, do you? I didn't. Is this the real thing? Do I bother anyone? Do I wake anyone up? And my dog was he kept checking on me. And so it was about, say, 2 or 3 in the morning. And my husband comes in, he goes, are you all right? And I said, oh, I'm not sure. I think I'm in labour, but I don't know. And he said, well, Axel came in. That's the name of our dog. Axel's just come in and woken me up and made me come into you. So we thought, what do we do? I didn't want to bother my midwife. I didn't want to bother anybody. Sound familiar? Yes. And I think at about 5, I rang her up and just said, just letting you know, think I'm in labour. But, don't worry, they're quite far apart. And I want to come home, as in back to Hamilton. And she's like, okay, right. Well, I guess if the contractions are that far apart, we don't even know if it's labour. So it's up to you. It's your call. You can go to the Palmerston North Hospital or you can come back up here. And I thought, there's no way that I'm having this baby in the Palmerston North Hospital because, one, I'm not ready. It's not part of my plan. I haven't got my bag and I haven't done the nesting thing and I need to be home. So my mind was just a little bit all over the shop, but at the same time, very determined. Another Taurian trait coming out, the stubbornness. Anyway, I told my parents. My dad just about died because Mum has had 4 children and each of those births have been very quick. And he's like, oh my God, you're going to be giving birth on the side of the road. You better pack towels. Anyway, we threw everything into the car and the dog and off we went. And I had downplayed it a little bit, if I'm going to be honest. Those contractions were closer than I said. And that car journey, so it's 5 hours, was pretty intense. Doable though. I just sort of had to keep reclining my seat, and every time we went through a new town, my husband would look at me when he saw the blue sign with the white cross indicating there's a healthcare centre or hospital, and I'd say no, keep driving. So anyway, we made it back to Hamilton, and I just went into this other space. I was like, right, okay, this baby's coming, but I'm not quite ready. So it's like I just had a little conversation with him. Didn't know he was a him at that point. Can you just give me a few hours? And bless him, he said, rightio. So I set up the bassinet or the bed. Not that he even used it. The bassinet, did washing, washed his clothes, repacked my bag, faffed about. And Claire rang me up and she said, are you guys home? Are you okay? And I said, oh, yeah, we're home. I'm just getting ready. And she said, maybe you should just come in to the birth centre and I'll have a look. Got there and I think she's expecting me to be, not very dilated. And she said, oh my gosh, you're more than 9 centimetres dilated. You're going to have this baby really soon. And an hour later he was born, basically. So it's a funny one because part of it was my, I don't know, determination, but there was somehow a connection with him to just give me a little bit of time. And that's what happened. The next part, so we have this little baby and we both, my husband and I, are just like, oh my gosh, we're in awe, but also like, oh my God, we created this little being and now what do we do? Because that's the part, I think. That's the part that you're kind of not fully prepared for. And to be honest, feeding was hard. He came really quickly in the end. He flew out pretty much and he tore me. So I had stitches, I had sore boobs, and it actually wasn't that fun. And he didn't know how to latch properly, or maybe I didn't know how to do it, whatever. But it was a challenge those first, especially few weeks. And again, I think when people assume that, oh, you'll know what to do, you're great with kids. And I'm great with kids, but I'm not really great with newborn babies that have come out of my body, and my body's a little bit traumatized from it. So yeah, it was quite that journey. And I think that 4th trimester for mothers is something we maybe need to do a bit better at talking about and sharing and preparing for, because I wasn't fully prepared for that. It wasn't that easy. And I know newborns don't sleep, but my gosh, my child, he did not sleep much at all in that first year. So yeah, there's just many things that in hindsight I just think I could have been a bit better prepared for. Certainly was for my second child with my daughter. Completely different experience and a whole nother story, which I'll share another time. But that's a little snippet of my entry into motherhood. Quite unconventional, to say the least. So that's how it all started, nearly 14 years ago. completely unconventional, completely not how I thought it would, should, could be. But it was a journey and we navigated through it and we're doing fine. I have a beautiful, nearly 14-year-old now, and he's okay, even though I ate the soft cheese. But I just wanted to give you that little snapshot of my journey at the beginning, and also just so you know that we all have our stories and they're all different and all weird and wonderful and all of that. And I think this is one of the reasons I've started this podcast, so that we can share our stories and we can really listen to and hear each other. And it's pretty easy to make assumptions and judgments and get caught up in the busyness and not truly understand how it is for others. You know, when we make assumptions that they've got it all sorted or they haven't got it all sorted. And the more that we can, slow down and connect and listen and begin to hold space a little bit more for one another and the needs, particularly of our new mums, but in each of the seasons of motherhood, as our children grow and go through their phases, developmental phases, we are constantly evolving alongside them. So it's not a get one sorted and it's done. It doesn't really work like that. We're forever learning and growing, and the more we can connect and share and support one another, I think it'll be a lot easier. So yeah, that's one of my big whys as to why I've created this podcast. It's not about having, celebrities. It's about you. It's really about you. It's about me, and it's just being in this space and learning and growing and sharing. So if you have a story that you would love to share, please get hold of me, and not necessarily for the podcast, although that would be wonderful if you'd like to come and have a chat with me, but just keep in touch. I have a Facebook group called Soulful Mamas, and I would love for that to grow and become more of a village of some really good conversations. Or else email me. I have open arms and heart to people who want to share their stories. They don't necessarily want it public, but they just want someone to witness or listen to it. So I am here and always willing to listen and be part of people's journeys. So thank you for listening, and do subscribe or follow however or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It just helps other people find the podcast. The more people that follow along, the algorithms, I guess, get it to work in our favour sometimes, rather than showing us shoes that we really don't need on our Facebook feed. So thank you for listening, and the next episode will be coming again soon, and have a beautiful soul-filling week.